Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Conlin, and welcome to Pop Crime TV, or if you're listening, to the Outlier podcast. My guest for today is John Edward. For today, he's going to be an author because he co-wrote a new book, and it's called Chasing Evil. It sounds amazing, and you will see why. But John, he is best known for his work in being a psychic, in being a medium, a lecturer, and again, an author. So we're going to zero in today on this masterpiece, Chasing Evil, which is a true crime story that's based on the real work that he did with an FBI agent named Bob. And John tells me kind of how he and Bob met, and it's really, really fascinating. I mean, I I kind of wondered, I guess, how this friendship was going to move forward after Bob did what he did. But I will let you hear all of that from John. But it's the summer of 1998, and Bob, who is very skeptical of John, he's desperate at this point. He's desperate for a breakthrough in what seems to be a really unsolvable case. So reluctantly, he dialed John's number, and then what unfolded was this 25-year partnership, again in secrecy. So they were working on cases, and they cracked some, and they brought justice, and they really helped countless people. I mean, they really, really did. So the book is centered on the John Smith murders, and I'll just give you a rundown of the John Smith murders. I mean, it's like the most common name ever. Yes, John Smith. And at first, I didn't know if I was totally familiar with the John Smith case, but after reading about it, I was like, I'm pretty sure I've seen a Dateline or something on ID about this. But before I get into that, just really quick about John. He is so nice, and he has something that's just so genuine about him. I wanted to keep talking with him, but my interview, it was timed, and you'll hear me say, "Oh, Art's going to kill me. Art's going to kill me." Art's the booker. So Art was texting me. He's like, "Dude, you have to get off with John." But I'm like, I really honestly could have talked to him for hours. He was that fascinating. And I'm not really big on psychics or mediums. I'm not sure kind of how much I believe in all that. And I said that to John. But he doesn't seem, he wasn't offended or anything. And I don't think I was offensive the way I said it. I just haven't had an experience that would make me be like, oh, so who knows? I'm always very open-minded, of course. But John David Smith, again, the John Smith murders is what this book centers around. And he was convicted of, I won't give too much away, just a little bit of a gist, convicted of killing his first wife in 1974. And then he was indicted in 1991 on the murder of his second wife. And then there was a third unidentified woman that they thought that he may have killed. And again, I'm not going to give too much away because this story and this case, it's not open and shut. John Smith was actually able to overturn a conviction, one of the convictions. And again, you'll see what happens. But yeah, it's quite a tale. And John and Bob from the FBI, they played quite a role. And now, just so I don't keep calling him Bob, his name is Bob Hilland. That's his full name. But now I will stop talking and I will play my interview with John Edward, and then I'll close us out at the end. But I think I really have no choice at this point but to get an interview with Bob. So I think I need to work on that, and let me know what you guys think. I have a link to the book in the episode notes as well. So yeah, without further ado, here is my interview with John Edward. Nice to meet you, John. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Lauren Conlin.
Nice to meet you.
So I'm very fascinated by you because I have to say, right off the bat, I have never been one that was into psychics, into mediums, but I've always been fascinated with how they help with criminal cases. And I think that's really important. So I love that you have this book, Chasing Evil, and you worked with an FBI agent,
I did.
and that right there is what really caught my attention. I was like, oh, okay. So, if you don't mind, just because my audience is most likely not familiar either, would you just take me through how you got to work with Bob back in the 90s, and
Sure.
then and yeah, how this all came about?
So I started my journey doing this in 1985. So I came into this at the age of 15. I was doing readings. That took me into just radio and then eventually television. But when I was doing a lot of radio in New York City, Bob kept hearing me on the same station and it annoyed him. He didn't like the fact that they were putting me on. He didn't think that it was real. So he took it upon himself that as a side project, he was going to bust
Hmm.
me for fraud. So he reached out to my office and came under the guise of a very real case, but he kind of did some other things. Like he went around the office and asked women in the office for items and put them in evidence bags and then put them in front of me as part of the case. And I think one of the first things that I did was I moved the things that had nothing to do with the case away from the real items and
Hmm.
said, I don't know what this has to do, but these are the things I want to focus on. Gave him insights and information on the case he brought me, but then I wound up reading for him. And when I read for him, information about his family that he did not have knowledge about came through. So he wound up going home talking to his parents. They then validated in an emotional way what it was
Hmm.
like to experience that. He saw the validity to it. He's an
Yeah.
analytical guy, right? He's an analyst.
Hmm.
So he then came back to me and was like blown away, but simultaneously had a lot of questions. So as
Yeah.
as a result of his journey was, how do I use this guy as a tool in my toolbox? Can I use this guy as a tool in my toolbox? Now, my backstory is my dad was a New York City police officer. And one of the things that he told me
So
was
cool.
to not embarrass him and to make sure that I never worked with the police. Like, don't ever say that you work with the police. And I was
Is
like,
your dad still alive
he's
today?
not. No, he's
Oh,
not.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. But we did not have the greatest relationship. So the last thing I wanted to do was add any other angst to what was existing. And I just stayed away from it. I just didn't, people would ask me stuff and I'm like, no, I don't do that. That's not the kind of work that I do. And technically it's really not. It's not the work that I do. But something about Bob, uh his commanding nature sparked something in me that it took me years to realize that I was dealing with my own kind of patriarchal issues by working with him, seeking acceptance and validation, not realizing that's what I was doing, but I guess that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of therapeutic. So for me, it was more of a unconscious therapeutic working through my dad issues. With
Mm.
him, it was how do I use this guy's ability and can I do this? So that was the way that that kind of came together. And then we just became like brothers.
Can I just go back for a minute? Because I guess I'm kind of fascinated with the fact that he heard you on, and what radio station was it, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure, it was the Scott and Todd radio show, WPLJ.
Oh my gosh, that's so Scott Shannon. He's like such a
Yeah.
legend. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
I worked at WABC well before it shared the building, the Cumulus
Yep.
building, yeah. And then I moved over to the 800 Third Avenue. But yeah, oh my gosh, legendary
Years.
guys. Yeah.
Years.
So he had you on, and this guy's like, Bob's like, I can't take it anymore. This guy's making stuff up. This is not okay. He's stringing. It's fraud, basically, is what I'm assuming is the key
That
buzzword for
was
him.
pretty much what the key
Yeah.
buzzword was. Yes.
Okay.
And he took it upon himself to say, like, I'm gonna like take him out.
Okay. And what was that? What was the evidence that he had these women give to him? I'm just curious at what this
Um,
evidence could be.
I don't know,
You
comb,
don't know.
lipstick, compact, whatever
Okay.
was in
I
their
just
purse. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Just making sure. And so, of course, this went nowhere because you really impressed him. And then you forged this friendship, but you were hesitant because your dad always kind of said, don't embarrass
Correct.
me, don't work. Oh my gosh. And so I guess, was that not a thing back then with the NYPD? I guess that might have been something with the FBI or um, you don't work with mediums because I feel like I hear this from time to time. They do work with mediums now, but I guess back then they didn't.
So here's what this is just my on the
Yeah.
sidelines. I don't know this factual. I don't know if you could say that police forces the FBI or whatever investigative bodies there may be officially work with psychics. I think you
Right.
have moments like we had where something brings those two things together and then a relationship can be formed. And maybe
Mm.
that investigator now has, well, I've had an experience here, so I know that this works. Hey, let me tap into this person again. So it's an
Okay.
individual who may be part of the bigger whole who then kind of works with the investigator. I don't think that police officers in general are going out looking for psychics to help with cases.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Yes, sorry, agreed. I guess I just meant I've heard about something where they brought in somebody about a missing kid.
sure.
This is where he hangs out. Do you think he could be submerged in this water? What do you feel? Not directly asking that, but
Yep.
you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
hundred
yeah.
percent. And
Yeah.
I think Lauren, you have the opposite too, where the police are probably fielding tons of people who are saying that I'm getting this, or I see this, or I had a dream, or I'm a psychic, or whatever. So I think that
Yes.
they have to kind of like weed through what that is. And I think that's where my dad was coming from. I mean, his
Hmm.
classic statement to me was just make sure, like, every time a psychic works with the police, they're always going to tell you that the body's going to be found by water. If the planet's 90% water, then the odds are stacked in the psychic's deck.
Yeah.
That that was the energy.
That's a really good point. I
That
know. I know.
so and that's one of the reasons why I was just like, I'm gonna be over here. But
No,
I've
you're
always been
so
that
right.
person. I've always been the person that looks for validation and information, which is why when HBO was doing a documentary called Life After Life, America Undercover, um, I said yes to it because they were
Mm,
tapping into Dr. Gary Schwartz at the University of Arizona, who wanted to study mediumship and wanted to study this. And I remember thinking, I kind of have to do that. Like,
yeah.
somebody wants to stand up and investigate this. I kind of feel
Mm,
like obliged. So I did three double
yeah.
blind studies, myself and a number of the mediums. So I'm all about looking to bring credibility to it. And I think that that's what Chasing Evil does for Bob. It brought credibility to our working relationship. Like, it's a tangible tome of our time
Mm.
together and the cases that we worked on.
Yeah, and I feel like you are clearly an intelligent person. You've grown up with a father in law enforcement. You're incredibly well trained, well educated. So in my opinion, it's kind of like, why would you not take this and do good, if that makes sense? Why would you not try to help solve some of these crimes and get some of these people off the street if you can? And that's so amazing. I think that's so cool because you could have gone down a completely other route, which, the I don't want this to sound
You,
negative or like I'm
I get
yeah,
it.
but like a reality like just the you know what I'm saying?
I
Like this
do.
is a darker route and not everybody is going to be on
and
board, right?
I wasn't and it wasn't public for 3 decades. Like, this is something that I kept really. I mean, the funny joke was,
Crazy.
the funny part of it was, I would say to him, Bob, I want you to keep my name off of everything. Like, I don't want to be on any reports anywhere. And he would say,
Yeah.
that's not a problem. I want to keep my job, so we're good. We're good.
I'm dying. That's so funny. That's really, really funny. Oh my gosh, John. Okay, so Chasing Evil. I mean, I was just looking for a new book, so this is perfect. I am so excited to read it. Is it available audio as well, or right now
Yeah.
just
So
it's
here's the cool, Lauren. Here's the
cool.
cool thing.
Yes.
Bob and I, when we work together, we're never in the same room because I'm all over the country. He'd be in
Yeah.
different places. So my phone would go off, and there he'd be, a voice on the phone. So when it came time to record the audiobook, a majority of the book is written in his voice, right? Because it's coming
Okay.
from ripped from his case files. So when it came time to record the audiobook, I didn't need as much time in the studio as he did. So I was like, I'm going to be in the West Coast. I said, can I do it out there? And they said, sure. So I'm in the studio on the West Coast, and I'm going to read, my part of the book within one
Yeah.
day. And then all of a sudden, they surprised me, and they had him there. So we wound up reading,
Oh,
together, and
so
it was
nice.
kind of like almost emotional at some points because it was kind of
Yes.
very cathartic. And then they had a big
Yes.
question. Their question to me was it difficult doing this with Bob, the audiobook, because you weren't in the same studio? And I said, no, this is like right on brand because none of us, we were never in the same place when I was working on cases with him. One of the cases, I was in Ireland in a car on a way to an event, and he was in Connecticut. And
That's so cool. Oh my gosh. So you've literally been kind of low key working on cases and namely with with him
Yep,
for
only
Bob
with
for
him.
25 years, but nobody knew about it, which is so
My wife
wild.
did. My wife
Okay.
knew.
Well, fair enough, fair enough. But and just quickly, for people that are not aware of the John Smith murders,
Hmm.
could you just give a quick like 30-second spiel about what goes on and what you guys did?
So that was the original case that he came to me about.
Mm-hmm.
John Smith's second wife, named Betty Fran,
Mm-hmm.
went missing. And that was the case that he brought to me. And that seems to be the main arc of the entirety of our relationship. And that
Mm-hmm.
became the arc of the book. So there's information about his first wife that got revealed. There's information. I don't want to give too much stuff away, but there's a lot of that case are the benchmarks for our relationship.
Yeah.
From my
Okay.
first meeting to when you close this book, it ends with, I think, a pretty dramatic ending with him, which
Ah.
is, not the one that people would expect.
Okay, okay, that's fair. So I think, oh shoot, art is like I need to move on. Okay, sorry. One last thing. Is there just anything that you can tell me that you said to Bob when you were working on this that Bob was just like, holy hell, you are not a human being? Because that was nobody would know that. Like this is so crazy, and then
So
it
there,
ended up being right. Yeah.
okay, so there's a lot of that, but I'm going to give you one that's
Okay.
that's
Okay.
different, different than you're asking.
Okay.
There's one
Okay.
time he called. There's one time that he called me and he asked me about a specific case, and I start rattling off all this information, and he was like, "Yeah, none of that's accurate. Like none of what you're giving me is helpful in any shape, way, or form right now." And I was like, "I don't know what to tell you. That's what I'm seeing." And then 2 seconds go by, and he goes, "Oh my god!" And I go, "What?" He goes, "You're giving me information on a case that I haven't asked you about yet." I think that was a moment for him.
And he had written the case down. It was on his list. He
It
just
was a,
hadn't even brought it up to you yet.
it was a case that he was working on, but he wasn't planning on asking me about that case. And I got information about that case,
Oh
not the
my
one that he asked me
goodness.
about.
John, I'm going to get your information because I feel like I really need to go at this with you longer than 10 minutes with what we have,
Great, let's do
especially
it.
because, by the way, this is so funny. I live in New York City. I'm from New Hampshire. Your first stop on your tour is Manchester. I'm literally here right now. That's where I went to
Yeah,
school. How weird is that? But I'm going
that's
to be
cool.
back in the city next week. So it's like, oh, it's bad timing, but maybe I'll come back because I saw you're doing
I,
Boston, whatever. So
Lauren, you
yeah.
probably should interview Bob because the stuff that he's going to give you
Okay.
about this relationship is going to be
Oh
like
gosh.
right up your
Okay.
alley.
Okay, amazing. Sorry, Art is going to kill me. So I'll let you. And that was John Edward. I mean, he was so amazing. Again, I really cannot wait to read his book, and I need to follow up on another interview. So I hope you guys enjoyed that interview. I realized I was a little excited. There was a lot of me spitting back what he said, but it was mainly to make sure that I was understanding, I guess, what he said and following. I tend to do that sometimes, but yeah, overall, I just was so impressed, and I cannot even imagine nowadays, like the world we live in, working on cases like this and nobody knowing anything about what you're doing, which is it's just crazy, except for your wife or your significant other. But all right, guys. If you like this podcast, don't forget to rate, subscribe on Apple or wherever you listen. If you're watching on YouTube, give me a like, subscribe. I would love that. And if you're listening on Apple or wherever, you should also leave a review. I would love that as well. All right. I'll be back next week with more episodes and more live streams. All right, guys. Have a good one.